Understanding Bittensor is like each one of these little pictures that represents a different data point, and taking each one of these and putting them together to gain an understanding and paint a picture of what's going on in the network. And if you're here because you want a different perspective, or you want to learn something new that nobody else is talking about, and you're in exactly the right spot, because that's what we're going to do. We're going to paint a mosaic of what's going on in the Bittensor network using data around website traffic, SEO, social media, not just in terms of like what's going on in social media, but actually how many creators are creating content around the topic, because that's going to be spreading the awareness around Google search trends, around on-chain liquidity. We're going to cover all that in this video, because this is exactly what I did and the approach I took in 2016 to understand what was going on with Tesla, way before anybody else, which then allowed me to make a ton of money with Tesla. So with that being said, if this is your first time here, what's good? My name is Sam, and for those of you who are returning, it is good to freaking see you. To start with, we're going to get into data related to the network itself. Then we're going to go more into the on-chain liquidity, website traffic, which I think is very interesting, because the website traffic are very specific users. Like, you're not going to go to a website unless you're very interested in it. Then we're going to get into some SEO, which is a fancy term for just search engine optimization. Basically, how does it rank in Google? We're going to look at Google Trends and YouTube Trends, because remember, Google and YouTube are the #1 and #2 largest search engines in the world. So how I think about them are almost as like the heartbeat or the essence of what the world is thinking about. Because if you see data inclining or declining on Google Trends, then you can understand if something is growing, the heartbeat, the essence of that thing is growing in the marketplace or declining in the marketplace. And lastly, we're going to get into the social media, which is probably my favorite part, because then you get to understand the consumption of content around Bittensor, as well as content creators around Bittensor. Because the content creators are basically people who are working for free to spread awareness around this and gain an understanding of a specific topic. So the more content creators are making content around, say, Bittensor, the faster the awareness is going to proliferate, which is just a fancy word for spread throughout society, throughout the world, the understanding of what Bittensor is actually doing. Let's dive right into this. This data is from Tau Stats, and we're tracking the number of wallets. So if you look here, the growth rate has actually been accelerating for the last 3 weeks. That's the number of new wallets created at an annualized rate of almost 225%. So like, think about this. The number of new wallets on Bittensor is growing at a rate of, and it's been increasing, right? It's probably going to continue to increase until detail comes out, at a rate of nearly 225%. How quickly do you think the number of wallets created are growing for, say, the top 30 tokens, say, on CoinMarketCap? Do you think they're growing at more than 225% annually? I'm not sure. I know a lot of them probably are not. So this is a good indicator of interest in the marketplace. Like, this is a data point we're taking a look at, right? Another interesting thing here is this is volume. This is from them as well. So through this time period, you see ups and downs. Lately, it's been a little bit higher volume. What I find interesting is the amount of stake. Right? So this is Tau that's been staked on the network. As the supply grows, like if you hold everything else constant, if the circulating supply increases, then price volatility comes down. Where if you have the amount of staked Tau decreases over time, and then circulating supply is going to increase, which means price volatility is going to decrease over time. Now, remember, this is a relatively small market cap, not compared to like most companies type of thing, because we're like $3.5 to $4 billion. However, This is something I'm continuing to watch, and I'd like to get more data on this, especially as detail launches. I don't think we're going to have a lot of participation in alpha pools or detail pools, personally, because if you look at any like DAO and like thing where you try to get the community involved to do something, generally speaking, you're going to have very low involvement. But this is going to be super interesting to watch. Next, this is from Dextrader. So this is the data related to the quantity of pools, right? So I can go create a pool on Uniswap with wrapped cow, or it's creating several bases with several other pairs of networks. So like you could go to this, and this is just interesting to see if we see a trend in this, is like the number of pools related to wrapped cow continuing to increase over time, then this is going to grow liquidity over time. Or you would think it would, and then that's where we're actually tracking liquidity. So liquidity is going to be influenced by because we're measuring liquidity in USD value, the USD value is going to fluctuate based on the pairs in the marketplace. So if wrapped tau is paired with ETH on Ethereum, and they both increase in price, tau and ETH, then you're going to have an increase in liquidity. Now, another way those can increase is if people actually add money to the pools in on chain, because this will increase this number here, right? So that's why I have the price over there. So we have a 5% increase in price, but only a 0.22% increase in the actual total liquidity. However, very interestingly, look at this. This is the total trading volume across these pools here, right? $3.9 million of trading volume on $8.5 million of liquidity. So that means like every 24 hours, this is 24-hour trading volume, every 24 hours, you have about 45% of total liquidity traded hands. That's really high. That's the highest we've seen since we've been tracking. So my hypothesis would be that we're going to see an increase in price volatility. That's up or down, right? Like obviously you choose what you believe, but price volatility just means up or down, right? In one way or another. So this will be very interesting to watch because it's a massive number relative to the liquidity in the marketplace. Next, let's take a look at the website rankings. So these are rankings according to SimilarWeb. They're like a data analytics company. So we took 5 of these sites that I'm aware of that could be popular. Now, if you have other sites where you think they are relevant or that we should be tracking, like leaving a comment, shooting a thing on Twitter or whatever. But these are the top 5 sites that I know aware of. This one will probably end up dropping because I don't think that there's any updates happening to this site or any marketing happening to this site, because you see this site here is actually losing its relevance. So this is a global ranking of all websites. So this site here just keeps getting less and less relevant, while let's say Bittensor.org actually over the 5 weeks we've been tracking this has gained, right? It went from 876, 841, 642, 626, 609. So Bittensor.org continues to gain in terms of popularity. These are individuals who are like very interested in this, because otherwise, why are you going to Bittensor.org? The only reason you're going to go to a website is you have to have a deep interest in actually going there to understand what is going on. Bittensor.com, we've had a fluctuation. It's basically at the same ranking it was at in mid-December. Tau Stats has gained, which is kind of interesting. There's a lot of people going there to stake. And then Tau Times has fluctuated up and down as well, right? But I think that these 3 are the 3 main sites that a lot of people are using. Let's go to the next thing here. And then this is SEO. So I'm still trying to figure out what's best for us to go through and take a look at in terms of SEO, because there's many different things you can track for SEO. So currently, I'm just putting in the domain authority. There's basically a ranking of the domain, where a higher ranking is better. How like Google thinks about the domain effectively. And even though if we go back to SimilarWeb, Tau Stats has the highest ranking on SimilarWeb, and then followed by Bittensor.com. And if so, you come over here, even though Bittensor.org has a lower ranking on SimilarWeb, they have a higher ranking or higher domain authority when you use SEMrush as the platform you're using to gather this data. And then referring domains. So this is the number of sites that will link back to any one of these sites. So Bittensor.com has 2,400 sites that are linking back to Bittensor.com. That's a lot of sites, 360 and about 600 for Tau Stats. So this one we just added this week. We will continue to track this because that'll be super interesting, just like the Google Trends here. So Google Trends, we're just tracking worldwide traffic over 90 days on the web, but also on YouTube to get an understanding of like what's going on. Check out this for YouTube. Since when was it, mid-December or early January? Since early January, we have not seen a drop where there's basically no search traffic for the terms on YouTube, which is the only time that's happened, right? So clearly that's a good sign because you can see the spikes, even though the absolute total amount of search traffic at this point in time was higher than this time. I would personally rather, I believe it's healthier to see consistent amount of traffic for searches, because remember, YouTube is the second largest search engine in the world, and Google is the largest search engine in the world. Okay. Now, these numbers are not always like super relevant unless you compare it to something. So we're comparing it to crypto AI, which you can see is growing in popularity drastically. So as the market, like you get to see this big trend from which is the yellow line over time of that growing. So it's just a matter of time until the marketplace starts to gain a better understanding of what Bittensor is actually doing. And if you come down, where was it? It was on maybe YouTube over the last 5 years it was. If you look here, over the last 5 years, because there's not like a 3-year mark here, you can see the popularity of the search terms and where they're most popular in terms of interest, which is very interesting when you think about like what country is going to be the biggest developer of subnets on Bittensor. So we've been tracking this as a percentage, right? Like there's significantly more traffic for crypto AI, and that is growing, where these two are fairly flat. However, this is a much broader term than what is Bittensor Tau is a very micro term, or like the niche type term. And then we're doing the same thing on YouTube. Now, this one doesn't provide us a ton of like useful information, in my opinion. It's the number of posts related with the hashtags on Instagram. So they don't give us a granular data of like 1,007 posts. They just say greater than 1,000 and less than 100, which this will change probably to 10,000 at some point if that number is reached. TikTok does give us granular data where we get to see over the last 5 weeks or so, 4 weeks since we've been tracking this, we've had a 4.5%. So basically in a month, we've had a 4.5% increase, right? So like if you annualize that, it's a 55% annual growth rate. A 55% annual growth rate in terms of people using the hashtag Bittensor. So that would imply that they're making content around Bittensor, right? And the same thing with Bittensor Tau. We're just using this again in their information. Now, YouTube. So for YouTube to gain a better understanding of the entire marketplace. We just added a new metric here, but this is the number of videos that have been created in the last 24 hours. So what we do is we go over to YouTube, and then you can filter here to get this information. So we went through and have been tracking this for several weeks, and we see a big drop off. However, today is the day that TikTok is banned. So like earlier today it was banned, now it's not banned. Or like it wasn't working, now it is working basically. So I think that has something to do with it. And this is, I think, 2 days after Trump launched his meme coin. So I think that has something to do with it as well. So we added this. So basically content creators, that's what this is. How many people are creating content around the last 24 hours? If we see a consistent growth in this, that is going to be saying to us we have more people working in the network for free to make content that educate the marketplace on Bittensor in some degree, or pontificate, which is just like fucking talking about Bittensor in some way. So this, I'm very curious to track this over the next quarter or two. Now this is over the last month. We're just going to take the top 10 videos so we can track over the last month the number of views related to Bittensor. In order to do this, we do the same thing over here where we track, right, over the last month, we do the view count. And if it doesn't have Tau or Bittensor or something like that in the thumbnail or in the title, we're not counting those views. So we'll just take the top 10 videos here over the last month with Bittensor or Tau in the title or the thumbnail, and that is how we're actually counting those in here. And the last thing that we just added in here was in Discord. So Bittensor has their own Discord, and there's 4,800 people online right now. 5,000 people that are online in the Bittensor server. That's a lot of people. And there's 32,512 that are actually members of this. So we're tracking this, and we're going to see how this grows over time. These are the fucking nerds, right? Like the miners, the validators, the subnet owners. Like I'm in the Discord, but I don't like talking about it or do much stuff in there. But we're going to track this over time as well. Now, when you take all of these things and you put them together, you are able to get that bigger picture of what's going on. Because the way I see Bittensor is the evolution of taking something that's, say, black and white. So with crypto, you have something, say, like black and white, there where it's code, right? Yes or no, it's binary. Now, with the human consensus on Bittensor, we have the ability to take something that is gray, that is fuzzy, that is subjective. And because of the consensus, with the human consensus, we're able to take something that isn't black and white and now make it black and white. So when you think about this, I believe that this is going to transform this. Like basically every industry has areas that are fuzzy or subjective, where they could build on Bittensor. This can touch so many different industries, and that's why I'm one of the many reasons that I'm very bullish on this. The other is another one is like the double exponential. Crypto is growing exponentially. AI is growing exponentially. We're putting both of these two things together. So you have a double exponential of what's about to happen over the next, say, 12 to 60 months in this space. So basically what I wanted to cover today, so we're going to just end it with an awkward ending here.